Stephen, the appointment of Peter Hartley has been announced. Tell us what he'll bring to this role.
I think the same as Brian, an ex-player with lots and lots of experience, close to the dressing room, only just finished playing after a really good career. Peter's somebody I knew. He was my captain at Motherwell. Stayed in touch with him in terms of his progression as a coach, and he's coached in India. He's worked under the Atletico Madrid banner as well, from a team that was associated with him in India. He's been working at Sunderland with the younger age groups as well. So certainly fits the profile that we see that role. He will work every day with the first team. And the bigger thing is to bridge the gap between the under-18s and the first team, to manage the loan players, to ensure all the bits that we believe will develop those players for now and for further down the line, and giving them the feedback from their loans is so important. So a big role for us, for the club, and important we got the right person.
Yeah, why was he the right person, do you feel?
He spoke to numerous people. As I say, it was a certain mould that we wanted. We wanted somebody that was, had coaching experience, but was also still aligned with the dressing room. Also, I'd worked in a development role, and obviously had the relevant qualifications, which Peter certainly does, and he comes with a really good history of playing, and played in Scotland, and understands what it takes to be a professional footballer in Scotland. So he also a bubbly character, really confident. He's been a captain, so he's a leader at the same time. And as I say, similar to Brian, offers a calmness when he's coaching the younger players, and he coaches that group in between that are with us and out on loan that come back 3 days a week to train with us. So again, I think it's a really important role, and for me certainly fitted the bill.
Moving into the role that's come after Brian Kerr's moved up to assistant manager, how important is the succession plan?
I think it's really important the steps we've put in place over the last 2 years in terms of the quality of coaching staff we've got. So that's been reiterated by Brian moving up, Dermot obviously moving on. Good coaches move on, good people move on, but you have to have as you say, a succession plan in place, which we had with Brian. We've also got Stephen McGinn in the academy, who's starting out in his coaching career and path and getting better by the day under the guidance of Alan McManus. And we've got a lot of good coaches in around that under-18 and under-16 area that we believe they will also step up. And it's important as a football club that people see opportunities. They see that there is a progression to be made within the football club, and I think we've gone to prove that, and people develop under the current staff and move on to bigger and better things.
You talk about the loan players there. You've got the likes of Lewis Jameson out at Raith. You've got Keenan Offord. You have Fraser Taylor at Arbroath. Can you give us a little bit of insight into the loans that they've been given, and why the certain loans that have been gone out have been suited to them?
Yeah, we've cherry picked the moves that we want for players. Sometimes they work out really well. Sometimes they don't get game time. Luke Kenny didn't get a lot of game time at Cliftonville last year. Lewis is in and out of the Wraith team at this moment in time, but that develops them as well. Then ultimately they have to come back good enough to be in the first team. The club's moved on. The club's changed in terms of the levels needed to break into the first team now. So that might take slightly longer, or you need to be a little bit lucky in terms of injuries and suspensions and getting an opportunity. But we felt that if they're not going to play on a regular basis right now, which they weren't quite ready for, then the only way they develop is playing games. And I have a belief that these younger players between 18 and 20 need to get game time. They get to 21 and 22 and they've sat on the bench and they've come on 10 times, but they don't develop as people. They don't deal with disappointment. And it's massively important that we pick the right loan moves for them. We've had a lot of success in the Northern Ireland market in terms of loans, and Kieran has hit the ground running. He scored 4 goals in 4 games early on. And there'll be tests and further tests. You're playing in front of a crowd, demanding, similar to Scottish crowds. We expect Wraith to be right up the top of the division, so it's a challenge for Lewis to get in the team and make sure he stays in the team before he can come and be considered to be in our team. With Fraser, it was a case he's been out so far. His career consists of playing in the Irish League, for Ballymena, who struggled last season, so that was a different test for him. Now he's gone out again until Christmas, because if he sits on the bench and he gets 5 minutes here and there, the kids don't develop. They don't become men. They don't become first team players. And there's no guarantee any of them will. That's the thing. The standards have been raised. It's up to the young players to come back and be good enough and show us they're good enough. And certainly some of them are doing it. Some are doing it better than others. but that's the way we believe as a football club, and very much aligned to Peter's role. You know, he will watch those players, he gives them feedback and analysis every Monday and Tuesday when they're back in the club again. And again, that was important, that the boys are back in the club with us and training with us. Not everyone, but you know, the ones that we can, we try and keep close to us. Peter will fly across to Belfast. He will be going to the games in Scotland, aligned with Alan McManus as well, who obviously plays that pivotal role between the academy and the development squad. So yeah, a lot of thought processes put into it. Ultimately, we want to get to a stage where, you know, we've got 5 and 6 younger players in that squad and contributing, but that takes time. I think we're the joint second or third youngest squad in the league, because there's 2 tiers of producing players. So we bring in people like Caelan Boyd-Muntz, Richard Taylor, Oisin Smith, Roland Adua, all boys in between 20 and 23 that haven't quite made it at the clubs that they were at. Still young players with minimal amount of games, but you create assets that you can sell, and they still come under that development model where there's a lot of work to be done with them. We either produce them to sell, or you know, they make up the squad, which all 3-4 of those players that we've done have contributed to, and also the younger players coming through. So at the moment we've got Callum Penman and Evan Mooney training on a regular basis with the first team. So yeah, look, the future looks bright. It does take time. You know, when I came in here in the academy, there was nobody trained with the first team due to numerous reasons. COVID had stripped the academy completely bare. So we've rebuilt the academy up in terms of personnel, in terms of numbers. The recruitment has to change. We have got bigger expectations than what was previously maybe in the last 10 to 15 years. To break into a top 6 playing squad, then the standards need to be higher, the fitness needs to be higher, the quality needs to be higher, and that's the standards we're trying to drive along with the academy staff, with Alan, the strength and conditioning staff, and obviously the first team staff aligning to that.
One of the things you mentioned there is Peter's role in terms of looking at the loan players as well. I suppose that's important for these boys that are going out on loan to know that it's not out of sight, out of mind. There's still going to be that development for them, and the club's still very much looking out at how they're progressing.
I think previously at clubs where I've been at, the boys go out and loan, they're out of sight, out of mind. You know, that's not the case here. I will reiterate, they need to be good enough. They need to develop when they're out, otherwise they don't come back as first team players. And some will develop quicker and be closer to our first team than others, and some won't. Some will be possibly released or moved on. That's just football. But at other clubs, you are forgotten about a little bit. Here, it's a conscious decision, as opposed to having a development squad, which we don't have enough numbers for and costs, you know, it's big financial implications to run that. We choose to put them out into real men's football, which I'm a big believer in between 18 and 20, they have to play football matches, which I've alluded to previously. And that's Peter's role, where, you know, he stays in constant contact with them. He will be giving them feedback on a Monday and Tuesday in the games and what they can do better, how we align that to our squad. We then try and put that into practice in the training sessions. And, you know, as I say, some will progress quicker than others. And out of the 5 or 6 that we eventually will have on loan, if we can make 2 of those first team squad players or starters within the next couple of years, then that, you know, bodes well. In terms of recruitment for the academy, and I class the academy all the way up to 21 and 22. We are looking at all different aspects. You know, we've got digs now, so we can now recruit from a little bit further afield, and that doesn't need to be 11 and 12 years of age. That can be 16 to 19 to 20, 21. We use Richard Taylor and Caelan Boyd-Muntz as examples of boys that you can recruit from other clubs that still come under that development model. So I think it's very much a twofold recruitment stage. Ultimately, we have to recruit better. We have to be better if we're to maintain where we are and have finished in the last 2 years.
Just circling back to something you mentioned earlier, Callum Penman, Evan Mooney have been very much involved in training with the first team. You got a chance to see the under-18s play at the Spiza Stadium against Alloa Athletic. How good an opportunity was that for the younger players to get a taste of playing at the stadium? I
think again, before I came in, they never played at the stadium. So the staff and academy staff and I got together, and that has to be a big occasion. It gives them a chance to play in front of a crowd. And it was good to see. They were fantastic, the boys, and some standout performances. And now it's up to those kids now to bridge the gap, and the coaches to try and help bridge that gap between first team and academy football, which is light years away. It is so different physically and mentally. repercussions for every mistake that you make. But there's some of the names that I've mentioned there that we believe in the coming years, well, it could play a part if they develop and if they continue to show that they're good enough.